All right, so this first question is from Iona. Oh, sorry, Ioana. Ioana. My clients subscribe to my magazine, and there is a new magazine every month. So as long as they are subscribed, every month the new issue pops up in their account. But the subscription can be stopped by the customer at any time. They can skip a few months and come back on board at any time. So they might have subscribed from January to April, unsubscribed from May to June, and then come back again in July until September. So I need a membership system that will let them keep access to their old issues and yet not access the issues of the months during which they were not subscribed. And of course, subscribers who join in any given month, say May, for example, cannot have access to previous issues from previous months. I have a place to host all the files if that's not something that you can do, but I need a system that tracks their membership and make sure they can always come back to their collection of old magazines. Let me think. I'm not sure if that exact scenario can be accomplished. I mean, you can certainly grant access to the content, but the issue that the thing that I'm kind of finding in a challenge with is when you cancel, when they cancel, they don't want to receive new issues. You still want them to be able to access the ones that they have already gotten access to. So it's almost as if there needs to be some other mechanism, some other thing that indicates, because in MemberMouse, basically, the subscription indicates access. So if you cancel the subscription, you lose access. So there's two things that you're looking to accomplish here. You're looking to accomplish access, but you're also looking to have an indicator of whether or not somebody should receive new issues. There would definitely be a way to accomplish this, but it would have to be thought through. And it's not going to be like an out of the box, straightforward, oh, here's exactly how you do all aspects of that. A large percentage of what you're asking for can be accomplished, but the exact proprietary thing that you're looking to cover would probably, at least it's not coming to my mind right now, how to do it exactly. I mean, I can think of ways to do it, but they would involve having to use custom fields and using a little bit of programming to determine access and things like that. It wouldn't be a big deal, but it's not. The situation is very specific that you're asking about, so it's not something that you would just be able to do right without any additional work. So if you want to talk further about it, we can do that. But yeah. All right, this next question is from Wendy. Just been using your export tool and it's fabulous, but I need to export the product name as well. This is very important to me. So let me just take a look real quick at refresh my memory on what the export, oh, right, okay. Product, browse transactions. So possibly, have you taken a look at the browse transaction screen? So on the browse transaction screen, it does display the description of what was purchased, which is ultimately coming from the product. Or is it either is the product name or it's the description of the product. I forget exactly what. I can test it right now to see. So basically, if I go to product settings and I purchase this magazine subscription, um, submit that. And then go back to browse transactions. Yeah, so the description is actually the product name. So if you use the browse transaction screen instead of manage members, then you and then export from here. Well, let me just double check, make sure that the product name is in there. Yeah, the product name is in there. It's the description column. So that should do it for you. Just make sure to use browse transactions to do export instead of manage members, and you'll get the product name. Okay. So this question is from David. I just wanted to say that I never got off the ground up and running after a year. Shame on me. I have canceled yesterday and plan to come back in a couple of months when I create more content. However, my main comment is that you guys are the best at what you do, and I must say I appreciate all the people I've met and your support. When I think of a company, I always think of Member Mouse. My focus now is to step back and try again, and I will sign back up. Well, thank you so much for the feedback, David. It really means a lot to me that even though things didn't turn out the way that you planned that they would, that you had a good experience with us, and that you, to the extent that you come back when you're ready. What I will say though is, I understand the um, that feeling of, I signed up for this thing a year ago. I was intending to do this thing and it didn't happen, and shame on me. And it's, actually, you probably did more than you think you did. I've had many experiences, and hindsight is 2020, but I've had many experiences with Member Mouse where I had the same situation where I was planning on doing something, the deadline came and went, and I at the time felt like, oh, I just wasted all my time. I didn't do anything, all this other stuff, this feeling bad about myself and all these things. And then something happened at some point in the future. And at that time, I was able to take advantage of that opportunity precisely because of some of the things that I did in that first time around. So all I'll say is, like, you never know how, like, when you spend time going towards something, it's always worth it, even if it doesn't end up the way that you thought it would at the time that you thought it would happen. Um, you never know how the work that you've put in, the relationships you've created, the fact that you know how to do things now, you understand Member Mouse. There might be an opportunity where you're like, anything can happen. So yes, listen to yourself, know that you need to step away, and now is not the right time, but also everything that you've done is meaningful and valuable, and it will have um, a part to play in the future when you come back to this. So I'll just say that is from my experience, and also other people, that I've talked to. So it's just part of the journey. Great. Well, I look forward to being here for you when you are ready to get things back on a membership site. So Good luck with the content creation. Um, let's see here. This next question, do you have any thoughts about how to figure out a cost benefit analysis for hiring a developer and or a site maintenance contractor for their site? On the one hand, someone might not want to spend extra money up front, but on the other, how much quote unquote money in the form of time or aggravation or incorrect setup might be spent the other way? Any ideas about how to make that assessment? I have way too many ideas about how to make that assessment. In fact, I feel like making that assessment is, it takes experience to make the assessment, and it's a situational thing. So trying to translate the way that I do this, which is situation by situation, which makes it very clear on when it's appropriate in those situations, when to hire a developer, when to start with this thing, whether to do this thing. Um, Trying to generalize that um, for a larger context. Let me see if anything comes to me. Okay, here's a good one. If you're confused, um, then it's probably time to talk to somebody. And I know that this sounds simple, but in a lot of the situations where I've had conversations with people who weren't planning on getting a developer, like this happens a lot actually. I'll get on the phone to do a consultation, and they'll be basically on a consultation to ask my advice. But basically, they'll spend the first 40 minutes explaining to me, this is my plan to do this. This is my plan to do that. I've got this thing over here, which is going to connect to this widget over here. And I'm listening to them. And, I do my best to hear everyone out. And in my mind at the same time, I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about, in a very compassionate way, like it's, so I would like to just be like, okay, let's stop, let's, I appreciate all of the enthusiasm and the excitement and the wanting to start running the race and all this stuff. But it's in those situations, even if they were able to accomplish this thing that they wanted to do, it would be a nightmare to maintain. Not only that, at some point it would just fail. So I think the critical thing to recognize in determining when to bring somebody in is be honest with yourself about where you're good at and where you're not. And recognize that if you're not, like, it actually is a skill to be able to take a set of requirements. Here are the business requirements for what we're trying to accomplish. I have this product that I'm trying to sell. Here's my market. Here's the particulars about the situation. Hold on, I think I have to sneeze. Coming, is it coming? Um, anyway, is it the particulars of the situation? Um, Taking all of these factors into account and then making a diagnosis in terms of what the right approach would be at the right time. This is an architect's job, and an architect, it's like the contractor for a house. Like if you're going to build a house and you've never built a house before, it's actually a pretty good metaphor. I should have thought about that first. Um, you know, do you want to do it yourself? And if you're going to do it yourself, you recognize you're approaching that process with open eyes and awareness that, okay, there are some risks involved in me doing this myself. If I pour the foundation wrong, or if I make this choice of material in the wrong way in the wrong place, you know it could mean I lose everything. So it's very much akin to this, so some very precise guidance, certainly in the early stages. Um, and I would say more high level guidance, like a developer, it's a tricky thing, in terms of engaging developers, because a lot of developers pretty much just want you to tell them exactly what it is their job to do. They want you to say, here's what we want built and here's the output. And even being able to do that is like, if you're able to do that, you've already gotten certain length of the way in the process. And again, in the situation I was describing earlier of a person who knows exactly what they want to do and they have the resources to spend on it, but if they're building the wrong thing, it's ultimately not going to help them. So a developer in that situation is not going to question you. They're not going to be able to help in terms of avoiding the ship ultimately crashing into an iceberg. So early on, you want to, and really, again, this only really comes into play in larger projects. If simply all you want to do is, I've got some content, I want to sell it online, this really doesn't apply to this situation, because tools like MemberMouse are precisely the solution to that problem. It does the work for you, right? So it provides all the tools you need. WordPress allows you to do work with themes. So you don't really need to get into developer involved in a straightforward case of that. But if you have very particular aspects of your business, like, the earlier question, where you have a magazine subscription and it's not just access, you know, it's access, and then if they shut it off, then they continue to get access, but they shouldn't get sent new issues. But then when they turn it back on, they get access to new issues. As soon as there's like these very specific elements to the business, that's where you're going to want to start getting a developer involved, and really more of an architect, somebody who can envision the whole thing and plan for the future. Because we've actually had competitors in the membership plugin space who aren't around anymore because architecturally they didn't plan well enough in terms of how they architected their solution. When you build a piece of software, it's very easy to design it in such a way that's in a short-term mentality, and will make it such that you will get into situations where you can no longer maintain your product. So that's what I have to say about that. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, so hopefully that helps. So do we have any more questions at this point? Cool. Well, I appreciate everyone for joining, and I hope you all have a nice weekend, and I will see you next time. All right, bye.